Bruno's greatest rescue. A kitten's tale. The sun peeked over the quiet farm. Birds singing a happy morning song. Bruno, a strong, loyal dog, woke up near his owner, Mr. Williams. He stretched and then trotted over to greet him. "Good morning, Mr. Williams," Bruno seemed to say with a wag of his tail. "Good morning, Bruno," Mr. Williams replied. "Lovely day, isn't it?" Bruno agreed, but he had a feeling something was going to happen. He couldn't explain it, but his doggy senses were tingling. Later, Mr. Williams asked, "Bruno, do you hear something?" Bruno had indeed heard something, a faint cry. He followed the sound, his ears twitching, until he reached the barn. There, hidden under some fallen wood, was a tiny kitten, shivering and wet. "Oh, you poor little thing," Bruno thought. He gently picked the kitten up in his mouth and carried it carefully back to the house. "Bruno, what's this?" Mr. Williams exclaimed, seeing the kitten. "A little stray. Come inside, little one. You need to warm up." Mr. Williams wrapped the kitten in a soft towel and gave it some warm milk. Bruno watched anxiously, hoping the kitten would be okay. The next morning, the kitten was much better. She scampered around the house, exploring everything. Bruno followed close behind, making sure she didn't get into trouble. "Are you my big brother?" the kitten seemed to ask, batting playfully at Bruno's tail. "I'm your protector," Bruno thought. "You're safe here." The kitten purred and snuggled against Bruno. Mr. Williams smiled, happy to see them together. A few days later, the kitten got into a bit of trouble. She followed Bruno to the barn and climbed up onto a high shelf. Suddenly, she couldn't get down. "Meow! Help!" she cried, scared. Bruno rushed to the rescue. "Jump!" he barked. "I'll catch you." The kitten trusted Bruno and jumped. Bruno caught her perfectly. "Purr," the kitten said, relieved. "You saved me." That night, a sneaky fox came onto the farm, hoping to find a snack. Bruno saw the fox and growled fiercely. "Stay behind me, little one," Bruno barked to the kitten. "This is our home, and I won't let anyone hurt it." Bruno stood bravely between the kitten and the fox. The fox, seeing how big and strong Bruno was, decided it wasn't worth the trouble and ran away. Bruno had proven himself a hero, not just to the kitten, but to the whole farm. After that, the kitten and Bruno were the best of friends. They played together, ate together, and slept curled up together by the fire. The kitten even tried to bark like Bruno, though she mostly just meowed. Bruno, who had once rescued puppies, had now rescued a kitten. His heart was full of love and protection for all the creatures on the farm. As the sun set, Mr. Williams watched Bruno and the kitten playing. "You're a true hero, Bruno," he said. Bruno wagged his tail happily. He knew his family was safe and loved, and that was all that mattered. They all lived happily ever after. The first rays of dawn painted the sky in soft gold, touching the dew-covered wheat fields of Mr. Williams' farm. Birds sang their morning greetings. A gentle breeze rustled through the tall stalks, and Bruno, a large, warm-hearted farm dog, stretched on the porch. He yawned, his tail thumping lazily against the wooden planks. This farm was more than just land. It was home, his family, and he was its guardian. But today, something felt different. A strange unease prickled at the back of his mind. His ears twitched. His nose lifted to the air. That's when he heard it, a faint, high-pitched whimper. Fear, pain. Bruno's heart pounded as he followed the sound, weaving through the thick grass behind the barn. Then he saw it, a tiny rabbit, no bigger than his two paws together, caught in a cruel snare. Its soft fur was tangled with dirt and dew, its little body trembling. One fragile leg was twisted unnaturally, caught in the cold steel trap. Bruno's heart ached. He knew rabbits feared dogs, but this little one was helpless. And Bruno was the only one who could help. He lowered himself slowly, making his big body seem as small as possible. His tail wagged gently, his deep voice soft and reassuring. "It's okay. I won't hurt you. I promise." The rabbit Thumper, as Bruno would later learn, gasped for breath, his wide eyes filled with terror. But something about Bruno's kind face, his gentle presence, eased his fear. Slowly, Thumper stopped struggling. Bruno studied the snare. If he pulled too hard, he could hurt Thumper even more. He had to be careful. Using his strong teeth, he worked on the wire, gently twisting and nudging. Minutes passed. Thumper whimpered, but he stayed still, trusting Bruno. Then, snap, the wire loosened. Thumper was free. He stumbled, his injured leg unable to hold him, but he was free. He looked up at Bruno, his eyes shimmering with relief and disbelief. You saved me, he whispered, voice shaking. Thank you. Bruno gave a small, warm smile. You're safe now. Just then, the bushes rustled. Thumper's fur stood on end. A lean fox, its eyes gleaming with hunger, stepped out from the shadows. It licked its lips, eyeing the small, vulnerable rabbit. Well, well, the fox sneered. Breakfast is already served. Thumper's tiny body quivered. He tried to burrow into the ground, his breath coming in panicked gasps. Bruno stepped forward, standing between Thumper and the fox. His fur bristled, his deep growl rolling like distant thunder. If you want him, Bruno said, his voice firm and steady, you'll have to go through me. The fox hesitated. Bruno was big, strong. They had crossed paths before, and the fox knew better than to challenge him. With a frustrated snarl, the fox turned and disappeared into the woods. Thumper let out a shaky breath. I thought I was going to die. Not on my watch, Bruno said, nudging him gently. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. Bruno guided Thumper back to the farm, careful to match his slow, limping pace. When Mr. Williams saw them, his face filled with concern. Bruno, what's this? He asked. Crouching beside the trembling rabbit, Bruno barked softly, his eyes pleading. Mr. Williams sighed, nodding. Poor little thing. He examined Thumper's leg, his expression turning grim. It's a bad sprain, but with care, he'll heal. Mr. Williams built a small shelter near the barn, lining it with fresh hay and clover. He cleaned Thumper's wound, applying a soothing balm. Bruno sat beside them, watching protectively, his tail thumping softly against the ground. Days turned into weeks. Bruno visited Thumper every day, bringing him fresh vegetables, lying beside his little shelter, offering silent comfort. Slowly, Thumper's leg healed. More importantly, his fear faded. He no longer saw Bruno as a predator, but as a friend, his protector. One day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in warm orange and pink, Thumper sat beside Bruno, watching the fields sway in the evening breeze. I never thought I'd have a friend like you, Thumper said, his voice soft but full of warmth. Bruno chuckled, nudging him playfully. Family looks different for everyone. Mr. Williams watched them from the porch, his heart swelling with pride. Bruno, he said with a smile, you're not just a farm dog, you're a hero. Bruno wagged his tail, his eyes shining with quiet happiness. He had saved a life, but more than that, he had gained a friend, a bond unbreakable by fear, by differences. And in Thumper's grateful eyes, he saw a reflection of his own unwavering love and loyalty. This, Bruno knew, was his greatest rescue of all.